Hey fellas! In the next lectures, finally, we will start to modify the homepage template of our theme. For now, this whole dynamic area of the theme here on the homepage has only the markups that is guiding us. We will start today's lesson by including a slider on the theme. As the modification will be made in the homepage template file, which uses the template home.php file, the slider will only appear in the homepage, right? And the same thing will apply to the other fields that we'll have here on the homepage with lists of specific products. But let's take one thing at a time. Our slider needs to look elegant. It will be exactly this look that we have here on the theme page that is now finished. We have some options to accomplish that. The first option will be to use some plugin. There are several plugins that we could use, from free ones to paid ones, and very popular plugins such as Slider Revolution. But for now, it's not my intention to make you purchase any plugins. So I'm going to rule out the use of plugins for now. It's not because I don't like using plugins, far from that. I think plugins make life a lot easier for theme creators. WooCommerce itself is a great plugin. Just imagine creating a complete online store from scratch. The point is that sometimes I don't find a plugin that really does what I want. For this project, for example, I couldn't find one that looks the way I wanted. The second option will be to create the slider using custom post types, also known as CPTs. The problem is that creating CPTs inside themes, it's not a good idea if you want to publish your theme in places like WordPress.org, for example. Your theme would never be approved because the WordPress team considers that CPTs are plugin territory, not theme territory. Because they want you to separate one thing from another, and they are absolutely right about that, you shouldn't solve the problem by creating a CPT, okay? Another option will be to create shortcodes, but same problem. Shortcodes are also considered plugin territories, so shortcodes are not an option. Another option will be create your own slideshow plugin and add it to your theme, but WordPress.org will again reject your theme. I'm telling you all that because I really tried all those alternatives before creating this course. Until I realized that the ideal scenario for WordPress is that your theme is able to work on its own without the use of third-party solutions. Of course, that will not be possible. Many times you need plugins in your theme. Later on, for those students who are interested in making themes available for distribution, I will teach them how to get around this situation, okay? So my last option is to take advantage of some other slider, like the Bootstrap carousel or some other jQuery carousel. The team at WooCommerce has created a very interesting slider called Flex Slider. Let's get into the Flex Slider page now. So the cool thing about this slider is that it's responsive and has a very interesting look. As it's not a plugin, we can have a great freedom to customize it the way we want. Basically, we have to understand a little HTML, CSS, add some lines of jQuery to the theme, and manipulate the content that will be presented using a little PHP. The great thing is that this slider will work on your theme for a long time, without you having to worry too much about updates, which will be the case with plugins, which could change the look of your theme or even become paid plugins, which happens with some plugins. Not to mention the fact that some plugins also fail to offer support over time. Well, that's probably why the WordPress team doesn't recommend that your theme depends so much on third-party solutions. As we're gonna be building the slider ourselves, we'll know what to do if something gets out of our control or stops working. So let's do this. So to start implementing our slider, let's make a copy of the HTML markup we need for it. Let's delete this Bootstrap container structure. And why I'm doing this? It's because I don't want the slider to be restricted to the container. I mean centered in the middle of the site. I want it to span 100% of the page width. For this, I cannot place it inside a container, right? It's also very important that you keep the same class names, because if you change them, jQuery won't be able to move the slider. Only change the class names if you know what you're doing. Okay, now we need the files that make the slider mechanism work. Here on the Flex Slider page, we download the files. Let's unzip them. And we only need two files and a folder. The CSS file, flexslider.css. There's also the CSS file for countries that use right-to-left writing systems. So see if that's your case, okay? We also need the jQuery flexslider min.js file and the fonts directory. Let's copy these two files and the folder into our theme's Inc folder. Actually, let's create a new folder here called flexslider, just to make it more organized. And now we have to include these two new files. The font directory doesn't need to be included, alright? Well, you've already learned how to do that. So I'm gonna speed up the video a bit and add these two new files in functions.php. That's it. We have our two files included. Now we need one last thing. Here on the Flex Slider page, you have a piece of jQuery code that makes the slider move. Without it, it won't move at all. So let's create a new JavaScript file and enqueue it as well. Let's call it flexslider.js. However, the name doesn't really matter, okay? Now let's just enqueue this new file. I'll just make a copy of this line up here and just change the values. Now an important detail is that this type of code doesn't work in WordPress. If you try to open the page now, you will see an error in the console. Here, as you see, beside the images, which of course don't exist, we have this error here because WordPress doesn't recognize this $sign used in jQuery called alias. To solve this is pretty easy. Just replace the alias with the word jQuery. Now, when we reload the page, we can already see that this error is gone. We have other errors, but they refer to the images not found. If you look up here, you can already see that something of a slider is kind of moving here. Interesting. In the next lesson, we will start to see how we will make the slider load the images and other elements we want, but all in a very dynamic way, without the theme user having to make much effort. So until then, take care, guys.